is the North End. This is the North End.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the North End podcast. It's with me, Luke the Duke, i.e. Luke_L_ Connolly, or as I've decided to for some strange reason call myself Master of Wombat. I am definitely not having a mental breakdown, so it's fine. It's totally okay. Small group of us today, but you know, they say great things come in small packages. So we've taken the two smallest guys on the pod to make an amazing thing. So welcoming JP California.
How are we, Luke?
Oh, I am, just living, JP. Another day, another dollar. I actually had a bet with a 5-year-old yesterday that I was going to live forever. And people, I've actually said this to
5-year-old how to gamble. Well done.
I did. I thought, what would Tonali do? So I thought, which we'll get into. But yeah, I've said this to a number of people recently about living forever, and everyone thinks I'm mad. But my point, which you can't argue me with, is that here I am. And every day so far that I've said it, I've woke up and I'm still living. So my current bet is going well. Like if this was an accumulator, it's
the bar is very low.
It is. But I feel it's going well. I feel it's going well. JP, how are you, dude? How's life?
I am busy, man. As some people know, I not only do I appear on the YouTube channel, I'm a teacher and I'm a coach, and our season is just about to get started. So it is all hands ablaze right now. 70 kids, 3 teams that I'm running, 4 other coaches, and I'm in charge of all of it. It is a nut show. And right now I'm getting all the gear in, having to get it all silk screen brought back, 500 pieces of inventory. It's crazy right now.
It's manic. And you moved.
And I moved.
That's
yeah.
Okay.
Into a very nice elderly lady's house that I am now trying to change to some modern century by installing new can lights and other things that did not live. You can tell how much stuff we have, like wall art from our room here.
I do quite love old people. I think they're fantastic, but especially old American people, because they did things that the rest of the world, like the serene wrap on the sofa.
Oh my gosh.
Like, do you know, is anyone in your family done that? Is that a thing?
No, she had the wrap on her recliner chairs, and she had just put a cover over them that was the same material that was the cover that was under the serene wrap.
Oh, for God's sake.
So it was like a double coat.
It's wild, isn't it? It's wild.
It's insane. She kept everything as well. She kept receipts from a deposit from 1975 for like $40.
Oh, that was a lot of money back then.
That was a lot of money back then, but you kept that.
Yeah, people are crazy. And I think we started. But you know what it was at the time? They'd really struck fear into the world. You know, it was like, hey, you need to keep everything because otherwise the IRS is going to come and take away everything. So, you know, we don't look at anything because we don't have cash. We don't check our bank balance. We're being charged for things that we don't even realize. And so big shout out to her. And she lived a great life and she made a great grandson.
My grandma did live a very full life. So
99 years, God damn.
99 years, and now here I am trying to wade through it all.
Exactly. Well, we won't make this podcast about JP's California's grandmother, RIP. But if that story of his grandmother and other things has got you excited, make sure you like and subscribe because we'll just incorporate this into an older people.
We promise we're an EPL podcast, YouTube channel.
Honestly, dude, if it gets us to 1,000 subscribers quicker, I'll just pivot. Yep. I have no bother with pivoting and talking about old American people. No problem. I'm in. So yeah, make sure you like and subscribe. JP, it's an exciting time to be a sports fan. It's an exciting time to be a Premier League fan, and we're gonna look at the table. And
what a table!
JP, why don't you take it away?
Oh man, me and Luke here have all the warmth in our bellies, even though we are both drinking cool drinks. Villa has us all warm inside, deep in our nether regions. Tottenham has miraculously continued on their 9-game undefeated streak, holding out the top spot against the ever-present juggernaut, fueled by steroids and things that are illegal, Manchester City. You have the risen from the ashes Arsenal, who are just continually chugging along. You got the ever energetic manager-run Liverpool from the cold north. You have the pride of the Midlands, the lion within the three lions, that is Aston Villa. You got the frozen tundra to the north, Newcastle, followed by, I don't know, some mid-table teams. And following up the bottom is the very small new team that everyone thought was going to do well. Burnley is struggling. They're in the bottom three with
surprised by that.
shocking.
I know you are as well, because we both said it. I remember we both talked about this. Company really built a fortress in the championship, and
they destroyed the championship, and they cannot get going. Even Luton is above them, and they are lucky to even have home games.
Yeah,
so
it's
crazy.
A bad time. It is. There are teams that I think we kind of maybe didn't give enough credit to in regards to would be in that battle. I don't remember if we all put Bournemouth to go down. I can't really remember. But
no, we all thought Bournemouth had a decent coach. We all thought they did well recruit-wise. We thought they were going to be, safe.
Yeah,
But they're not. They don't. I don't believe they even have a win.
Dude, they're in a world of hurt. They've got 9 games, 3 points. Only obviously worse to Sheffield, who have 1 point from 9 games. And you have to imagine even early, the writing is on the wall. Like 1 point in 9 games does not speak for great stuff.
No, that's on par for the lowest points tally ever from Sheffield United, and Bournemouth are not far off.
No, 3 points, minus 14. And Burnley are only 4, but remember, Luton are only a point above. So I know we're saying, hey, Luton aren't there, but it's a point. It's literally 4 to 5. That's the difference of Burnley and Luton right now. But it makes for interesting viewing. Everton,
if Everton get a win, it's almost solidifying the bottom 4 right off the bat within the first 3 months of the campaign, which would be crazy because in the last few years we've had bottom 3s that are going down to the wire, going down to the last month, and now we're saying we might have the bottom 4 teams at the end of our 3rd month. Like that is kind of heartbreaking a little bit to see a league that's so easily called at this point.
It is, but there is still beautiful things such as the magnificent, the effervescent, the vivacious Aston Villa led by the unbelievable Unai Emery. And I don't think any of us in our wildest dreams could have imagined this, from the deplorable, let's call it what it was, experiment that was Steven Gerrard to this is just
that was a pretty good accent.
Yeah, I've got him pretty good on that one.
It's almost like you're English.
It is almost at this stage. I don't know where it's from, but I'm so thankful in hindsight for Arsenal's turbulent X amount of years because Unai was really caught up in that post-Wenger thing, and they didn't. I think Arsenal basically suffered from not having enough time and not really kind of setting fair expectations. They just thought that they would bounce back to kind of Wenger quality, and they haven't. They've realized how difficult it is, and because of that, they got rid of Unai before I think they really gave Unai time, and now we are seeing just how magnificent this human being is as a manager. Like he is the elite of the elite. Like what he did in Europe, what he's doing here at Villa, with, let's be honest, with very little change.
Correct. Yeah, we are still using roughly 6 players in our last starting squad from the Dean Smith era. He is averaging over 2 points per game at Aston Villa, which has only been done by about 8 to 11 coaches in the entirety of the Premier League. He is 11 games unbeaten at home. He is a complete turnaround, and it begs the question, are Villa contenders for top 4, or are they contenders for top 5? Because the 5th place spot might be a Champions League spot this year. If all of the English teams in the Champions League do well, the points that they accumulate through UEFA or whatever the fuck the setup is that England could get another Champions League spot next year. And so 5th place would guarantee a spot.
We're just going to hold you for 2 seconds. Can you say that group again, JP? Obviously not
UEFA.
FIFA. What, sorry?
UEFA?
You mean UEFA?
Yeah, UEFA.
It's worth doing. I had to. It's fantastic. You always put a smile on my face with the nonsense that comes out of your mouth. But in regards to the actual football stuff you're talking, spot on as always. I think you're right. I think we're not kidding ourselves. Like it feels crazy to say, but Bar City, no one has taken more points with us than Villa. I don't think has any team scored
we are
more goals
tied
in the
with
last 3 or 4 games.
Arsenal. In
Yeah.
2023, we are tied with Arsenal, I believe, with 62 points. And I think Man City has like 10 points above Villa and Arsenal in the calendar year since the turn of the new year. So it's very interesting. Can Villa sustain this momentum? Luke, is Villa going to get top five? Is Villa going to get Champions League?
Dude, I want to say yes. I just look at it. Look at that beautiful table, right? And we've got these. We'll come back to the games we want to talk about, but just this is lovely. Like it's just lovely, and just because obviously we don't have the numbers there.
Villa are 4 points off Tottenham. Tottenham have 23 points. Man City have 21. Arsenal have 21. Liverpool have 20, and Villa have 19. Newcastle have 16.
Yeah,
and
exactly. And Newcastle are playing well. Like
Newcastle are playing well.
And what you see, the advantage that we have is, well, we've kicked ourselves out of the domestic tournaments, which is ridiculous and very upsetting. And we looked like we were bumbling through the Europa, the Conference League. But it looks like we may, with that late win, we may be back, hopefully, and we can have a bit of run there. But everyone else has got a lot of games, like Newcastle have got Champions League. They're still in cups. Like they've got a lot going on, and they're going to be expected to take a bit of a run at that. And obviously losing certain people, i.e. Tonali, we'll come back to. But I think we can dream, and let's talk about our next features before we look at the overview of who everyone's got this week. Our upcoming games, just so people know, we've got Alkmaar tomorrow in the Conference League. Then we have Luton, Nottingham, Fulham, and Tottenham, right? So
if you
Luton
12,
and Nottingham.
If you get 9 out of 12 there, that is still the 2.0 point per game ratio, and 2 points per game guarantee you top 3 every season. So if we get 9 out of 12, that is continuing that run. Again, though, you're saying you think Villa can? I'm going to go the opposite. I think Villa will run out of steam. We seem a little light. We only have 1 right back. We currently only have 1 left back. We currently have 1 striker who can score goals. We don't seem to be able to progress through cup games against far lower opposition. So, if we're not at our best or with the best lineup, I don't know how much more injuries Villa can take.
We probably can't take a whole lot of injuries, correct, but we do have players that hopefully will start to integrate a bit more. I'm not sure. Do we know the extent of Ramsey's injury?
He's out for another 3 months. He redid the exact same thing he did at the beginning of summer. And
that's a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a setback. Apparently I think he actually needed surgery, if I'm not mistaken. So he's out for probably 9 to 12 weeks. We do have Moreno coming back, which is very helpful. We really need to have somebody to switch in with Luka Dean. We are missing Buendia still. We are missing Mings. We had some terrible injuries. So Ramsey, Buendia, Mings are all 3 starters from last year. And that doesn't include Moreno, who's just now coming back and can still be another 2 or 3 weeks. So that's I want starters.
While we're on this Villa thing, I want to ask you to kind of educate people, because I wasn't aware until I watched your recap video this week. Can you give anyone that may not know or may not be in the kind of know of what's happening, can you give us a quick rundown on what's going on with John Duran?
John Duran was the Colombian youth striker we signed from the MLS At January
Correct.
last year, he got very little time. He has been getting time this year. He has been pitching in with a few goals here and there. But before the game this last week, it was noticed that his social media had removed all Aston Villa posts on his Instagram, and then he wasn't in the team, even on the bench for this last game, albeit apparently he did travel to Alkmaar today with the squad. So he is with the team on their Conference League game for Thursday, but there is whispers that he was very unhappy at getting yanked at 45 minutes the other day in the conference game. Now, if you're 19-20 and you're getting Conference League game and Premier League subtime, you should stick to that. Granted, he wants more, and he believes his goal scoring has helped him earn a starting spot or at least get more time than what he's being given. I don't really have an opinion on if he should or shouldn't get more time, but he did not.
I do. You see, I do have an opinion on that because I think he hasn't achieved much in his career. Okay,
No,
so I think we need to put him in place. If by that logic, he should have been below the pecking order of Cameron Archer, who I think has done a lot more and should have expected a lot more. Right now, he's gone out on loan. We've had to he's gone. Like we've got rid of him.
He's on loan. We sold him.
Sorry, we sold him. Sorry, and obviously there's that buyback, but he's gone, okay? Because he wanted time and he wanted the opportunity. Now, John Duran is being integrated into a squad that is doing incredible things with the greatest, potentially the greatest manager in Villa history, based on how things are going. A very exciting time for the squad. You have players that want Villa to succeed. Martinez has obviously been very vocal, saying he wants that Champions League. He could have gone to another team and achieved that, but he wanted to stay and do it with Villa. And so I think it's a bit pensive and a bit childish. And I think he showed a bit of immaturity here by kind of throwing toys out the pram a little bit. I'm sure Unai will manage this, and I'm sure there'll be conversations because there are frustrations. I believe last year he wanted to travel with the Colombian, was it under 20?
Under 20s, and
he wasn't allowed to.
Yeah.
So I understand. I'd give him that one. I think that was probably unfair, all things considered. But I think going forward, he has played. He has got more minutes than a number of other players, right? So he's getting a look in. He is scoring goals. But I went to see him when I was back home, and when he started up front. Was the game we lost 2-1 in against
Everton?
Everton. And dude, he was terrible. He was
I watched him. He did not play well.
He didn't play well. He didn't offer. He didn't look like he offered anything. And then we brought on Watkins.
And he's backed up to Ollie Watkins, who's just doing phenomenally well.
Of course. But Watkins had to work.
Yeah.
Watkins had to work. Remember, last year I would have taken an offer for Watkins based on the week in, week out conversations because he wasn't consistent. And so Unai's come in and said, listen, you're obviously a fantastic player. You've got great quality. You work really hard. We need to get you finishing more, and we need to get you more killer in the box. And he's done that, right? Watkins has worked really hard, and he's deserving everything he's got. Now, if Duran can commit characteristics that we like, he's a big lad. He's strong.
Right.
He does want to score goals. Like, he wants to get those shots off. Right. He's not fearful of taking an opportunity, which I think Watkins for a while was. He tries to do too much. But where he's lacking is he doesn't know how to peel off the last man. He doesn't know how to stagger his runs.
His game. He's an uncut gem.
He is definitely, and even to call him a gem, I think is generous. He's very uncut, and he's getting a very good opportunity in the greatest league in the world at a very young age. And let's be honest, he was dicking around in the MLS. And yes, the MLS has improved, but it's still a nonsense league.
It's still not a top 10 league.
No, it's nowhere near. It's nowhere near, right? So I think he has to maybe reel it in a little bit. And I'm hoping he'll get people around him, and he'll get people to kind of talk him down. And he'll probably feature a bit tomorrow. Like, if they've had a good conversation with him, I can't see him starting because we need the point, unfortunately, because of where the results have gone. I don't think he starts tomorrow. I think Watkins, unfortunately, will start again tomorrow, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I think it's a nice feeling. And I think, back to the main point, Villa can dream. And I think it's a great time for us to be able to feel like maybe there's something on the horizon here. So we're going to move on because there's been a lot to talk about. Before we get into two other topics, let's just have a quick chat about this weekend. So obviously, some
yes.
interesting games this weekend. JP, any that take your eye? Any that must watch? Obviously, the United derby is a big one. That is a big one.
I mean, obviously, the last game, the Manchester little clubs can battle it out in the last game. I think the other game that could be pretty fun to watch would be the Newcastle game versus Wolves. Wolves are a bogey team. They're at home against Newcastle on Saturday. That could be a really fun match to watch. Other than that, I think it's a pretty straightforward weekend. If you were a betting man, I think you could make some decent parlay action going into this.
I was a betting man. This weekend, I won $95. There you go. There you go.
There you go, dude.
Five strong parlay. Then I lost $40 in 2 minutes playing blackjack. So, my betting is a bit erratic.
Yeah, I feel like Tottenham has not an easy game, but definitely one of the easier games they could have against Crystal Palace. I think Chelsea should.
But aren't Palace the type of team that will do terribly for 2 or 3 weeks and then pull off a weird result?
They are.
Do you know what I mean?
I don't think they have enough to get a win against Tottenham. If they got a draw against Tottenham, I'd be thrilled. I'd love to see Tottenham held up for a round or two. They need to give everybody else a shot to get in that title race. Chelsea, Brentford, I think Chelsea has plenty at home. If their goal scoring continues, if they get shy in front of goal again, who knows? It could be an upset. But I think Chelsea should be 2-1 odds. Arsenal over Sheffield, that should just be a slugfest. If you're a fantasy team, you should load up on the Arsenal players for sure.
Next couple of weeks for sure.
Bournemouth, Burnley, who gives a shit? Wolves, Newcastle. Again, I think Newcastle have more than enough to beat Wolves, but it's at Wolves, and they like to upset big teams on the regularly. So I think that could be up in the air.
And they're at home. They're becoming quite a team at home. They've got a decent track record. I thought they were really going to struggle. It doesn't. They obviously didn't get that memo. That they're not doing anywhere near as badly as I thought. Currently sat in 12th, which is a lot higher than I would have expected. Neto looking like a hell of a player. Hwang making himself like consistently picking up goals. They've got a couple of really good players, and it's not the fallout that we thought. We thought, oh, Wolves have come out of nowhere a couple of years ago with this Portuguese renaissance, and they were like, oh, they're getting old.
They're going to be there.
Yeah, they're going to be okay.
But I think results here there. I think West Ham should get back to their winning ways against Everton at home. I think that's plenty for them to beat up on Everton for. Villa versus Luton at Villa. I thought it was away. I could be wrong. But I think Villa definitely are going to continue their home winning record against Luton to make it 12 in a row. That would definitely give us some points, get us up there, keeping us around that top 4 race. Brighton, Fulham. I just don't think Fulham have near enough fire force in their team. I don't think they have the striker needed ever since they lost. Bugger. What was his name? Mitrovic. I think losing Mitrovic for Fulham is going to be a much worse loss for them than a lot of people put on. Liverpool should definitely beat up on Nottingham Forest. They might make it a little hard meal. Maybe they don't score in the first half, but I still think they'll win 2-0 or something comfortably. Man U at home against Man City. Man U is not playing up to a top 4 team standard. Man City is just now rebounding after, 2 or 3 losses in a row. I could definitely see Man City slugging the shit out of United. I could see United losing 4 or 5. I could see them up for it and being a 2-0 game, but I could also see Man City just beating them like Mike Tyson fighting an infant. We will see.
You like this one. You've thrown this out a couple of times, and
it's a movie quote from Grandma's Boy, and it's a funny movie.
It's a brilliant film. It's highly. I'm too high to drive. Monkey, let's go. If anyone's not seen it, Grandma's Boy, it was a hidden gem, and
definitely rated R. So get your parents' permission, kiddos.
Absolutely. I can't disagree with any of that. I think if I was gonna go bogey this week, you want to pick one out of the odds. I think
9
West
and 4
Ham
to get a
could
draw.
lose. Maybe Liverpool, because Liverpool weren't really super convincing against Everton.
No.
It was a tough old game. I don't think, as you said, it's going to be an upset at City. I think it's going to be a consistent trouncing. But I can see Everton maybe causing an upset, but if West Ham are at home,
West Ham, yeah.
it's a tough stadium to
And that's
go
a
to.
long travel for Everton.
It's a long travel, and it's a long travel home with a loss. But
I wonder what the
fingers
payout
crossed.
is if I called all these games right. I wonder what the payout is.
We should have a look. We should have a look.
should.
We should get some betting odds up in this. That's
Put
what
a
we need.
tenner on it.
Yeah, I think maybe we get a North End pool. Maybe we'll ask people to put in some money every week, and
totally.
we'll pool it all together. Okay, so some really interesting ones there. I've got nothing to say on that. I think we'll see probably Tottenham still top of the table come the end of the weekend. But, this is the Premier League. It's what we love about it. It can change.
I love not having Man City up there. I didn't think it was going to be Tottenham. I think a lot of us were kind of rooting for Arsenal. We all said, like, hey, we'll be Arsenal fans this season if it means Man City didn't win. But if Tottenham's up there, so be it. I don't know if they have it in them in the long haul, but I know Brian is just happy just to be in the title race.
Listen, fair play to Ange. He's any critics he had. He's definitely.
It's reminding me of Klopp, like his second or third year when it really started to get going at Liverpool. It's kind of giving me that vibe. I don't think they have it in them the title run, but man, if they get like third place and they do well in the season, like that would be a huge come up for Tottenham.
Yeah, I think if I was a betting man this week, I was just having a look at some. I would go. I think a decent little bet could be Salah to score 2 or more, Villa to win and both to score. I can see Luton stealing a cheeky goal, but I think Villa 3-1 or something like that. And I could see maybe a Tottenham win with Son goal and both teams to score. I think you get decent little odds on that. That triple. We'll have a little look. We'll post in the comments a little bit. Talking of gambling, moving on to something that it's filled me with such joy because
it's been something we've talked about before. We've been kind of discussing this, but now it looks like it is going to be a 10-month ban, which would see Newcastle's marquee record signing, Italian record sale, Tonali, 10-month ban all the way through the end of the season, rocking Newcastle's hopes on a Champions League push and another top 4 push. Luke, is 10 months the right number? Is this the correct punishment?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because we talked about this last week on the pod, and we talked about whether, and there was Eric had some interesting points and stuff, whether they should just be given, this is ridiculous, better way, right? As long as you're not betting on yourself or a game that you're involved in, they should be able to bet wherever it is. However, these are young. I think we forget sometimes that these are children. These are young guys, right? And a 24, 25, 26-year-old is still a young guy. Go and talk to your cousins or your family members that are fresh out of university trying to find their way in the world. They're 23, 24, 25, right? And so if you don't limit the damage here to them, we could have a generational problem. We could have a lot because these footballers have never made so much money, right? Any of the top leagues, they're making at least 30, 40,000 a week, right? And that wasn't the case 20 years ago. Only the top 10% were making really high amounts. Everyone else is making a decent amount, but nothing to the level that these guys make. They can drop 30,000 on a week of betting, and then they can get themselves into trouble. Where we're hearing with his old teammate at Juventus, who was then having to ask other team members for money because he was in a whole sabbat and he was worried about people breaking his legs because he gets in with loan sharks and stuff. So I think I actually agree with this. I think for the upkeep and the safety, the personal safety of young players who are vulnerable as is already, as we've seen with over the years, Aston Villa had a number. Lee Hendry was a prime example. Hendry was seen as the next great England player. Like if you talk to the managers and listen to what the managers were saying about him, he really was seen as this lad is shit hot good. And it got to his head and everything went to his head and the booze got to his head and the partying got to his head and he just lost it. And remember, Lee Hendry tried to commit suicide. So it's a really, and I don't want to make this too heavy, but I think when we're talking about this, we have to consider this as a holistic thing. And I think 10 months is the right amount of time that it doesn't ruin the player's career, because if you make this 2-3 years, he gets dropped? Will he get picked up? Does he keep himself fit? 10 months. I think it's unfair to clubs that have purchased these players. I do feel for Newcastle as much as I'm, gleefully smiling because Newcastle, we had to share a bar with them here in Toronto and they're insufferable. But I do feel for them a little bit. But I think 10 months is fair. JP, that's me over. What do you make?
I actually feel it's too short.
Okay.
And I'm gonna explain. The idea that he compromised the league is 100% valid. He gambled on his own team. He gambled on soccer, a sport he has insider knowledge on. I think 10 months is lenient. I think it should have been 2 years. I think it should have been a harsh punishment. This isn't like, we all know that gambling is illegal for soccer players within their league, within their team, all this stuff. And I honestly believe it should be. These are guys that are well trained, that are well connected, that have agents that they can use to say, hey, go tell me about so-and-so's team. Let me make a really educated choice on this. This is like stock trading for politicians in the United States. They have the insider knowledge. They know how to rig the game so they can make the bet so they win. So for me, it is compromising the league. It is compromising the sporting integrity. He did it hundreds of times. He is a young lad and he does need to go through therapy for this, but you can throw the book at him and you can show this as a moment of, this is not what we are doing. Honestly, I thought, oh man, who was the Englishman who just got banned too for 9 months?
From the Brentford striker, Toney.
Ivan Toney, I think he did a lot of gambling, and he did a lot of gambling within soccer, but he didn't do it on his team. He didn't do it on himself. He didn't do it on his team. So he got a punishment that I thought was a little lenient, but he didn't gamble on his team. Okay, he did other gambles. He still had insider knowledge. It still should have been a good one, maybe a year. He got 8 months, I think it was. Tonali did it on his team that he is influencing. And people are going to say, oh, they're not going to think about that bet when you go out there and play. 100% they think about that bet when they're strapping up and they're getting their shin guards on and they're warming up. They're thinking, okay, I got this bet at this time. I'm going to try my hardest at that moment to go score a goal. Or I'm going to make sure we don't lose this game. I'm going to give even more than I normally would because I know I got a break next week or whatever. To me, 24 months, 20 months, maybe 18, a year and a half would have been a substantial time period to make an impression. These guys know. They know they're given hundreds of pages of documents that they and their agents need to read to go through laws of the game. They have been coached and told how to use their social media, how not to make bets, all these things. He knew what he was doing. He knew it was wrong. He went to an illegal gambling site. He knew all about it. 10 months is shallow. It should have been double.
JP California, ladies and gentlemen, I thought that was a soapbox moment and it needed to just be you and your rant.
Oh, wait, thank you. The bright yellow.
I think it's harsh, but I think your points are fair. I think it's considered. I think it would probably be unlikely that in the way, and especially with, imagine the legal advice he'd be getting from whether it was Juventus or whether it was Newcastle with the money they have behind them. I'm sure he was getting the best of the best, right? And so I think it was unlikely, but it's a fair point. For me, I think 10 months, he misses the season. I think that will do the damage that it will do. Will Newcastle still want to, did they sign him outright? Or
yeah, they own him. It was
so
65 million pounds, 60 million pounds.
That's the thing. It's like, do
like
they
75 million euros?
That will be interesting if they can find a way, if they can claim that that Juventus had any knowledge of this, that they knew that
it would be even
then
worse.
You're going to get a countersuit and a counter lawsuit because they'll be trying to get some of the money back, I'm sure. But okay, fair point. I think it was a well argued and well debated point, so I can't disagree with you. I think 10 months is fair. I understand your points on longer, and if it got longer, I probably wouldn't have been totally surprised or even felt it was
Villa
unfair.
fans, we probably want it to be longer. Let's be honest.
Yeah, we really do. But I think he's out for the season. That'll do enough damage to him. And it's not that they don't have an abundance of talent at Newcastle United, which is painful to talk. But there are good and there are bad, and there are things that happen that we like, and there are things that happen that we don't like. Talking of things that might happen that we like, this is interesting.
Whoa.
This is interesting. 12-point penalty potentially for
Possibly,
Everton.
yeah.
Possibly. Now, JP, you know a bit more about this than me. I know it's an FPP thing. Do you want to... FFP, sorry, FPP, I'm making them up. FFP,
Financial
sorry.
fair play is actually taken into account. Apparently, it only takes into effect for teams under 10th place. If you're above 10th place, they don't give a shit. They're not going to penalize you, right?
Yeah,
if you are owned by a foreign state, they're not going to penalize you because you're owned by a foreign state. Man City. But besides that, it looks like a potential 12-point. Yeah, that was just cough. Fiance is a little sick. It's getting to me. It looks like it could be potentially a 12-point penalty against Everton for FFP. They broke it over the back. They were 100 million over about 2 or 3 years ago, and you can only lose money for a 3-year period. And so it seems like this last year they were supposed to get clear. They were only about 20 million over last year, and apparently they couldn't do it, and they are over again. And so they could receive a 12-point penalty, putting them at -7.
Wow.
Which would be insane, or -5, something like that. Almost guaranteeing them a drop out of the Premier League for a team that's been in it forever. Now, I really like Everton as an institution. I like their fans. I really hope they don't fall out of the EPL. But there's the other side of me that loves parity and loves like honesty and the integrity of the game. And if they could not stick to financial fair play for 3 seasons straight, they have to be punished. It needs to be a harsh punishment, because then they can use that for the future.
There's a lot of shady stuff that's happened over the years with Everton, and I understand what happens, but there's been a lot of ins and outs with Everton for a number of years now. There was a lot of, they were being bought, they weren't being bought. They have had a rough week or two. Their chairman has just passed away at 78. I forget his last name.
Ken Wright.
Ken Wright, but very, very well known. Very, very well known.
Throughout the soccer game. I mean, he was
but in
their
the game,
owner
he was
for I think 19 years, 17 years.
Yeah.
Part of
massive parts of their development. Now, there was a number of fans that wanted him out for a long time. He was one of those. He was our Doug Ellis, right? That's what Ken was.
He kept Everton solvent. He kept them in the green, if you will, where they constantly were only spending what they made. He had David Moyes in. David Moyes did a great job. They apparently got along for a very, very long time. They got along really well. He sold it to I don't remember the guy's name. And even if I did, I'd probably say it like the American accent I would.
Farhad Mashiri.
Thank you. Mashiri.
A British Iranian businessman. There you go.
Who has struggled to find a coach that he likes, struggled to keep players that he likes, struggled to sell players that the club don't need. He is hemorrhaging money out of Everton. And it looks like, we've all said it, there's those teams that are like put together by 4 or 5 managers. They were put together by like 10 managers. It's like every other player is bought by a different manager. And then you have 2 or 3 in the background. They have a large squad. They have a bloated squad. They have a bloated wage. A lot of players are kind of nearing the end of their career too. I mean, you're talking guys that are almost the whole squad is like 27 or higher. There's a few young kids in the squad, and that's about it. They are struggling, and
they are
get this 12-point deduction after the rough last 2 seasons that they've had would surely mean the end of them. There's no way they could get.
You gotta imagine.
Yeah, there's no way they could get a 12-point. Yeah, like you're talking, they would need to get 50 points. That would put them at 38 for this season if they got 52.
Well, they're on 7 now. Minus, obviously, that would take down to -5. And so, obviously, with 40, so they need 45 points.
And if you're at 7 a quarter of the way through, you're only making 28 points.
Yeah, and you think of some of the results. Now they've had a couple of tough games, but they lost to Luton. That was a bad result. They beat us in the cup, which was ridiculous.
It's a cup game.
They beat Brentford in a good game, lost to Arsenal, but only by 1-0. They drew with Sheffield, which is a really bad result. They've got a couple of players that are keeping them above board. Decore is everywhere. He's literally everywhere. James
Calvin
Garner,
Lewis,
who United
James
were
Garner.
furious they sold for pennies. I think he
What
was
was
like
that?
8.
What's that center back they got?
Tarkowski.
Yeah, Tarkowski,
Yeah,
who is
he's
doing
good.
well
Played
for,
every minute. I think he
yeah,
played every minute of the season last year, and he's very consistent for them. But they're leaky. They're still leaky
they're
at the
super
back.
leaky.
They can't score enough goals as well
At
as the
least
problem.
they're organized. Sean Dyche has the defense a little bit organized. They just aren't scoring enough because they always concede 1 goal a game, 2 goals a game.
Yeah.
They're just not conceding enough. So when they hold a team to 1-0, they need to score 2, and they're struggling to score. Calvin fucking, I don't know why you guys even
Dominic
have
Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, who the fuck names that kid that? That's so long. That kid had to write like his name like a million times.
Yeah, but it's a double barrel name. Do you not have that? Maybe you don't have that in America. So it's when two family names. So Calvert-Lewin is his last name.
Yeah, we have it, but it's not very common here in America.
No, you're too busy going junior and seniors. You love your juniors and seniors.
Yeah, Jay, it is. I'm taking a giant L right now. Okay. There's not enough there. There's not enough. Selling Richarlison could have been the big miss for them. That might have been the one that kind of broke the camel's back where they just can't recover. They got 50 million from the sale of Richarlison to even the books, and it still might not have been enough.
No,
so
because they spent it. They spent a lot. They spent money on players that they probably didn't need to spend on it. It's just been they've made a mockery of a number of things, and it's been really poorly run for a long time now. And I worry that the chickens have come home to roost. And as you said, financial fair play doesn't seem to bother the people with obscene levels of legal teams, right? And obscene money behind them, i.e., Qatari backed or Saudi Arabian backed or anything like that. So poor old Everton. They're an institution, right? Whether you like them or hate them, they're an institution. They were founded as St. Domingo's FC in 1878. Villa were founded, 1874? So they really are one of the oldest teams.
They are one of the foundation. The only thing they have going for them, and this is the only thing that's going to save them, Sean Dyche.
You see, I'm not sure about that.
He is the survivor. He is a cockroach of managers. He didn't do it forever at Burnley, but he almost did. And he did it last year with Everton.
He went an interesting amount of time with it. I just because I was interested with the badge, I've never actually looked. Nil satis nisi optimum, right? It's Latin and it stands for nothing but the best is good enough. Well, right now I think for Everton, anything but the bottom is good enough. So I think the Latin has let them down, and I think the ownership and the spending and the financials
100%.
have definitely. And remember, they've got players on their books earning a salary that they don't even want. Dele Alli.
Oh my God.
Remember, he got sent back by Turkey. Turkey sent it back. They were like, was it Fenerbahce or Trabzonspor? They were like,
Galatasaray or somebody.
He's lazy. So he's back on the books. They got players that you look at and you're like, God, he's one of them. Andre Gomez, since that injury, I've just not seen anything that Idrissa Gueye. Brilliant player, but can't seem to kind of get the consistency. You've got Beto as an attacking option. Joseph Chimiti hasn't really done a whole lot. Lewis Dobbin, young lad, 20 years of age, not really a lot of experience.
No.
It's not looking good. Not because I don't see where they get goals, right? And that's their biggest problem. Because, as you said, they've got England's #1 goalkeeper, which whether he should be or shouldn't be, he's there. You've got some decent defensive options. You've got a very experienced Ashley Young. You've got Mikolenko, which I like. Michael Keane, not a huge fan, but he's okay. Tarkowski's pretty solid. Ben Godfrey, Seamus Coleman, Jared Braithwaite. They've got some good options.
But you're
right?
looking
Not
at
amazing.
a lot of guys that are 30 years old, if not older. You
Coleman's
got a long
35
season coming. Yeah.
Coleman's 35. Godfrey is young. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You've got a couple of old guys. I wonder what Michael Keane's going to be. 30.
He's up there,
30.
and he's always got a mistake in him.
Yeah. I've never rated Michael Keane. I think they spent a lot of money on him, and for me, he was the poor man's Harry Maguire, which obviously speaks volumes. JP, I think great point. I think we've covered the main things. I will say, just because I think it's important to say, well fucking done to Harry Maguire. Well done.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm gonna have my soapbox moment here because I think it needs to be said.
Go for it.
Harry Maguire has busted his ass. Harry Maguire has been attacked. Harry Maguire has been perpetually bombarded with shite on social media. He's been given nothing but abuse. His family have been put through turmoil. The United fans have turned on him. Everyone has been out to get Harry Maguire. And all of a sudden, he scores an important goal. And now he's getting himself back in that team. And I think you're going to see Maguire back in that team because he's looking around at that bench. He's looking around at the people in that team and he's going, these have got mistakes in them and they're old. You know, they're players that aren't where they used to be. You've got Varane's, Lindelof. Lindelof should be nowhere near a United team. He's been robbing a career at that club for a long, long time. I still believe Harry Maguire is one of the best defenders, if not the best defender they have on the books, right? And I think fair play to him. I will say I thought it was ridiculous, and I screenshotted it in case they try and pretend they didn't do this. When the BBC were doing their live commentary yesterday and he scored, they referred to him as Slabhead, which from an iconic journalistic institution, I thought was incredibly unprofessional, and I wasn't about that. But yes, big shout out to Harry Maguire on that one. It's a little thing, but I think he deserves it. I really do, because players don't put up with that abuse, and I think he's had to put up with so much, and I think he deserves it. And I hope we see a more improved Harry Maguire because he's young and he's not young. He's deserving of an opportunity.
I was going to say he's not young anymore.
I meant to say he's not young. I got confused. I meant to say he's cheap in regards to fantasy football options. If you're looking for a cheap defender, if he gets a run, he's 4.2 million, which is obscenely cheap.
Well, I think he's definitely been attacked wrongly and abused on the social media, just completely berated by some of his own fans. I personally would see nothing. I would like to see him leave United. He needs to leave for his own safety and his own future. And then I would love to see Southgate still pick him, because that's what Southgate does, right? He doesn't even have to play. That guy could be he could have a broken leg, and Southgate would call him up and say, "Hey, Harry, what if we got you a rollerblade on one leg? Like, come on, man, you can do it. We can
been a bit of a joke
out there. You need this is, I hate to say it, but what's happened to him has happened to a lot of players in the England national team setup, where a coach finally gets his back up to the wall. A coach just picks the guys he trusts.
Yeah.
Whether they can do it for him or not. And so he keeps picking Harry Maguire, who can't do it because he's struggling. He's out of form. He doesn't have the confidence, whatever it may be. And the fans are attacking Harry Maguire instead of attacking Southgate. It should be Southgate getting the abuse.
Of course they should.
Did not do well this last summer.
He's not picking himself for England.
He's not picking himself for England. Southgate is the reason why Harry Maguire is getting beat up.
Of course.
And nobody wants to go after him. I don't understand why Southgate is so well loved by the English.
I don't either, dude. I think he's robbed an England career. I loved Gareth Southgate. He was one of my favorite players growing up.
He did good for 2 tournaments, and that was it.
I would argue he didn't. I think he had an incredible team. We should have won the Euros. We should have won the Euros, and we didn't. Yeah. And because we scored the first goal and we sat back. We scored the first goal and we allowed a
Italy, the rest of
an old team. And think of the young lads that we had, and think of the aging defense that they had. Not to go on a side rant, but I think it's important. And you've got the likes of Saka, Grealish, all these like Phil Foden, incredibly quick players, Rashford, and we sit back and we allow them to come at us. Ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Anyways. JP California, always a pleasure, never a chore. Thank you for joining us. To all of you out there, thank you for listening, whether it's now or whether it's, over the next couple of days, next couple of weeks. If you find us, if you stumble on us, we're a good bunch of guys. And we're a good bunch of people. I won't assume any of our genders, actually. It's a very important thing. But I will say we're a good bunch. And I think you should smash that like button and be sure to subscribe. You know what it is. JP California, any last words before we sign off?
No.
Fair enough. Beautiful, beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. This has been the North End. We'll see you next week. And make sure you sign off and make sure you keep an eye out for JP California's wonderful, good, bad, and ugly. Good, bad, and ugly. Good, bad, and ugly. We love it. JP, thank you so much.
This is the North End.